have been easier to use a door, Chancellor?
And with me as our fearless leader, what could go wrong?
Hello everyone, I'm Keen47, aka Wolfkeen, and welcome to another edition of my Little Pony Vlogs for Season 2. Today, I am talking about Hearth Swarming Eve, written by Meriwether Williams. I think this is the second episode written by Williams this season. I'm checking the website right now. It is the second episode of this season, which is the first one being Mysterious Ne'er-do-well. As y'all remember, I like Mysterious Ne'er-do-well, but as a guilty pleasure, and I fully acknowledge it being a bad episode. So now, how does Meriwether Williams do in this episode? In all honesty, pretty damn good. If you ask my honest opinion, I think Meriwether Williams did great with Hearth Swarming Eve. Because, me being a fan of lore and history, this episode had that in spades in more ways than one. And also, fun fact, I believe this episode was released around Christmas time. It was. I just checked the date that the episode came out. It came out December 17th of 2011, so this is supposed to be the Christmas episode for My Little Pony, and I do like the way they decided to go for it. Instead of making like their own Christmas version in Equestria, they went for a world-building idea with the founding of Equestria. Or as many people will make the joke, how Pinkie Pie got a cutie mark and other crap like that. Like, I'm not even going to go through all the jokes. Let's get to work. The episode starts with the main six heading to Canterlot to basically be a part of a play that's supposed to be talking about the founding of Equestria. So basically, we find out that each character is going to be playing a different character in this play. And for the sake of accuracy, I will be calling these characters by their stage names, not their real names. So, I'm just making sure I got everything set. Yeah, I'm good. I will be calling these characters by their stage names instead of their real names. So, that's what we're going to do. We see like a little hint of what the main six is doing, like they're bickering with each other to the point, and then finally the play starts. So apparently, the idea of this is that the three pony tribes, the Pegasi, the Unicorns, and the Earth Ponies, they live together in a weird relationship with each other. It was kind of like a struggling relationship, because all three of them needed each other to survive. The Pegasus controlled the weather with the clouds, the Unicorns controlled day and night, and the Pegasi were the ones who controlled the food. They all needed to rely on each other in order for them to survive. But of course, this started a strained relationship between the three tribes. So much so to the point that, for some reason, the land that they used to be in was getting frozen and cold. So much so to the point that the Earth Ponies could no longer grow food, the Pegasi had no way of stopping these blizzards, and the Unicorns couldn't stop it either. Because of this situation, this led to the three tribes fighting with each other. And this, of course, led to a council, which leads to three of the prolific, the leaders of each tribe. The leader of the Pegasi being Commander Hurricane, the leader of the Unicorns being Princess Platinum, and of course the leader of the Earth Ponies being Chancellor Puddinghead. Of course, when they go to the meeting, they just keep bickering with each other, talking about why they're doing this or they're doing that or other crap like that. They just fought with each other to the point that they're like, we're not going to discuss this anymore. We're going to do our own thing. And that's what happens. And that's what happens, basically. So what happens is that Commander Hurricane goes to see Private Pansy, who is basically supposed to be, like, one of her various, soldiers. Alright, I'm going to say this right now, guys. Now I can see where K-Cat got the idea of having the Pegasi be the Enclave in more ways than one. And, well, I finally get to use this bucket, guys. Because I already said this. One or two jokes, I'm going to let you know, it's alright. But when I make a third, I'm going to make a bucket out of it. And this is the third Fallout Equestria joke/reference I'm making, so the one thing I like about that is that, now I can see, like, the idea of the Pegasi being the warriors in Fallout Equestria. But the one thing that intrigues me here is that the Pegasi's armor designs and home designs look a lot like Greek/Roman architecture. Which I noticed that right away. Like, like the You know, like the helmets that they wear with, like, I don't know what that is. I'm pretty sure someone in the comments can talk about that. So they talk about leaving their land and looking for a land of their own. Then we have Princess Platinum heading back to her home where she's talking to Clover the Clever. We find out later in the story that Clover the Clever is supposed to be an apprentice to Starswirl the Bearded. That's actually an interesting thing, considering that Starswirl was around during this time. Kind of makes you wonder a few things. But basically, Princess Platinum wants to leave this land as well and look for their own. Then, of course, we go back to Chancellor Puddinghead, who basically talks to Smart Cookie, who is her lackey. And, of course, Chancellor Puddinghead has the idea of leaving this land and looking for their own land. So far, so obvious, right? The one thing that I'm liking is that each of the races has something interesting about them, and you can tell by the different titles that they had something else. Like, the Pegasus were warriors, the Earth Ponies, like, Chancellor? That's kind of a weird title to give to the Earth Ponies. And then you have, like, the unicorns being princesses. Kind of interesting in more ways than one. So I won't explain this entire adventure, but what happens is that at one point, they finally find their new land, and now it's time for my favorite part of the episode, and a little bit of a joke that I came up with. How would I rate these names that they came up with for this new land?
I proclaim this new land to be Pegasopolis. In the name of the unicorns, I hereby dub this land Unicornia. In the name of the Earth Ponies, I think I'm gonna call this new place, Dirtville.
How about Earth?
Earth!
So anyways, guys, now that we're done with that, after they're done naming their lands, they find out that they all ended up in the same land. This causes them to begin to fight with each other again, and then for some reason it begins snowing again to the point that it's blizzarding. So what happens next is they seek shelter inside of a cave, and the tensions are still relatively high. However, in the scene before, you could tell that the lower members of the group, like Clover the Clever, Smart Cookie, and Private Pansy, they were all willing to talk with each other, while the higher-up members were just willing to go against or go away from them. So what happens is that they begin dividing up their sections of the cave in more ways than one, so much so to the point that they begin fighting over a rock. A rock, of all things. Like, a rock! They're fighting over a rock! So they begin fighting each other, and then this leads to the cave for some reason being frozen, and there's no way for them to escape. And then the leaders of each of the tribe gets frozen, so much so to the point that the lower members are backing up and they bump into each other. When they look up, they see like these weird pony-like beings in like this cloud inside the cave. Clover the Clever admits them to be Wendigos, which are supposed to be like spirits that feed off the hatred of other ponies. So basically, the more you hate, the more powerful they become. Which is why they were able to infest the old land and why they're destroying the new land now. However, Private Pansy and the other two ponies begin saying, like, I don't hate you. Like, we don't hate each other. And so they begin saying how much they don't hate each other and how much, like, you know, they would have been willing to talk with each other, and they're ponies. Why should they hate each other? So this leads to Clover the Clever somehow doing a spell which causes, like, this, you know, like, this burning heart to be there, and which dispels the Wendigos. So basically what this heart is supposed to be, like, the flames of friendship. That's what it's supposed to be, I think. The flames of friendship. So they try to find ways to keep the flame going until the ice is melted, and so are their leaders, by sharing stories with each other and singing carols, which are, of course, their versions of Christmas carols. Of course, once the leaders have thawed out, they've also changed. Like, they're no longer cold-hearted anymore. Now they're actually nice. They're actually nice. They're actually willing to talk. They're actually very compromising. So this leads to them, you know, establishing this land themselves, which they now called, well, I'll let them say it.
Equestria!
How many people do I have to fire? So after they establish the land of Equestria, and I know what someone is about to say, what about that era where they have Celestia and Luna on the flag? I'm going to let that slide as an animation error. You want to know why? Because Celestia established in Season 2 and later seasons that she and Luna fought Discord when Discord started, making life tough for the three tribes, which means that the three tribes did not, I'm pretty sure Celestia and Luna were not leaders at the time. They were probably just, ponies like the rest of them. Probably something unique, but ponies like the rest of them. So then we hear the song about Hearth swarming Eve, and I find it to be an interesting song. Too bad I can't remember it. It's not a very memorable song in my eyes. I mean, it has a great tune, don't get me wrong. But the words, I really can't remember too much because, well, I guess I gotta listen to it a little bit more. Remember, songs don't factor into my overall rating. So the idea of this episode is to show what happens when, you let hatred fuel you and forsake friendship in more ways than one. This is actually very true in more ways than one, especially if you think about it in Fallout Equestria. Because in the land of Equestria and Fallout Equestria, pretty much all that's there is hatred, death, and otherwise. People, ponies have forsaken the idea of friendship. So I kind of like this, that not only this is actually a concept I could see K-Cat using in the story, where the character Watcher tries to tell Little Pip about friendship and stuff like that. So there's not much else to this episode. I mean, we get a little funny joke where we hear the Wendigos while the main six is arguing, and then Rainbow is just like, you know what? I got it. To try to prevent a problem. And that's Hearth Swarming Eve. I really like this episode. I mean, I know a lot of people may not be into this episode all that much, but let me say this right now. As a fan of lore and history, this episode is amazingly good in my eyes. Back when I was in high school, I was a huge history nerd. So this is why I like this episode, because I love learning about the lore and history of TV shows, video games, books, and otherwise. Which is why, in more ways than one, Fallout Equestria has a really good mythos and lore to it, and it's all its own. Then, of course, you have other games that have interest in mythos and lore, like the Fallout series itself, Dark Souls, and other stuff like that. My Little Pony has been shown to have interesting and incredible mythos in more ways than one in its entirety of the 4 seasons. And this episode being one of the first times where they actually delve into the founding of Equestria and the 3 tribes themselves, I found this to be an amazingly good episode. And that's just being honest. And I cannot wait to talk about the next one, because that one also has some lore and history that I want to get into. So not much else for me to say, guys. So until next time, I'm Keen47, aka Wolfkeen. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, guys, take care.